I was reborn back to the age of 15. My eldest sister, married into the Marquis' household, was dying. On her deathbed, she begged the Marquis to take me as a secondary wife, to be a stepmother to her child. Yet barely 3 months after her death, the Marquis sought to marry my legitimate younger sister. On her wedding day, my younger sister looked at me with utter disdain and arrogance. I knew she had also been reborn. In our past life, she married a poor scholar, always envying my status as the Marquis' legitimate wife, enjoying all the splendor and wealth. But she never knew the Marquis' mansion was a den of wolves, where everyone was a ruthless, twisted monster. And that poor scholar she married in our past life. He eventually became the chief minister. Main text: I died with my eyes wide open. The Marquis' servants dismembered my body, tossing the limbs to the dogs. All because I witnessed the Marquis and his stepmother's shameful affair. That day, in the Marquis' ancestral hall, I saw 2 pale bodies entwined and screamed in horror. The next second, my shrieks were silenced. The Marquis thrust his sword into my chest. In my dying moments, I saw his stepmother's face splattered with blood as she feigned panic and clung to his embrace. My body was disposed of without a trace by the servants. Soon after, news spread throughout the Marquisate. The Marquis had vanished, and a reward of 10,000 taels of gold was offered for her return. The entire capital searched for my whereabouts. Yet at that very moment, my soul drifted above the Marquisate, coldly observing it all. 5 years prior, my eldest sister, who had married into the Marquisate, passed away from illness. On her deathbed, she implored the Marquis to take her younger half-sister, me, as his second wife. With tears in his eyes, the Marquis agreed to her request. During my 5 years in the Marquisate, the Marquis treated me with extreme coldness. He only put on a show in front of outsiders to preserve the dignity of the Marquise. I had believed they were deeply devoted to each other, that the Marquis was solely mourning my elder sister. But it wasn't until my death that I discovered the man beside me was a wolf in sheep's clothing. No, it wasn't just him. The entire Marquis' residence was a den of wolves and tigers. Being in spirit form, I uncovered many secrets of the Marquis' household. For instance, the Marquis and his stepmother had been adulterous for over a decade, and together they murdered the old Marquis. For instance, the Marquis' 3 brothers all harbored a sadistic delight in torturing and killing women. The dry well in the inner courtyard was piled high with bleached bones. For instance, the young heir of the Marquis' household, though still a child, was already insatiable in his lust, having played to death several young boys and girls. The Marquis' household finally announced my death. My funeral was grand, with invitations extended to every noble and imperial relative in the capital. At the ceremony, the Marquis and his stepmother wept rivers of tears, nearly fainting. Everyone praised their profound affection for me. But I just wanted to vomit. My spirit left the funeral hall and drifted toward the side quarters. There, I happened upon my birth mother and birth sister. My birth mother passed away early, and I was raised by my stepmother. She was kind-hearted, treating me no differently than her own daughter. Though my stepsister was a bit spoiled, she never harbored ill will. Seeing my family, tears welled up instantly. I lunged forward, wanting to embrace them and pour out my grievances. But my spirit body merely passed right through them, leaving no trace. Oh, right. I was already dead. Just then, my legitimate sister suddenly spoke. "Mother, since second sister is dead, it should be my turn to remarry into the Marquis' household now, shouldn't it?" What nonsense! My stepmother scolded her. Though the Marquis' household is modest, everything else is first-rate. You're always thinking about remarrying. Have you no shame? Mother! My legitimate sister protested. I should have been the one married to the Marquis' household all along. I'm the one worthy of being the Marquis' wife. Second sister is just a concubine's daughter, she doesn't deserve it. I never imagined my legitimate sister held such contempt for me behind my back. My heart grew cold instantly. But what followed from my stepmother left me even more stunned. What do you know? She pinched her daughter hard. She married into the Marquis' household solely to care for the heir. Your eldest sister drugged her with infertility potions back then. She'll never bear children. When her wet nurse conceived a boy, she actually dared to try carrying it to term. I had Mother Lou administer the poison, both mother and child perished. Both mother and daughter were worthless lives. Without children, she's just a grasshopper in our palms, can't jump far. My half-sister clutched her arm, pouting, "Mother, I don't care. I'm marrying into the Marquis' household. The Liu family is dirt poor, how could they compare to the Marquis' boundless wealth? I can still look after the young master once I marry in. Second sister is still a stepsister after all, I'm mother's own flesh and blood." Hearing this, the stepmother softened her tone, "We'll need to discuss this with your father." Mother and daughter walked away together. Left standing alone, I felt those words reverberate like thunder in my ears. Seasons came and went, winters passed and summers arrived. Before I knew it, I'd been trapped in the Marquis' mansion for 10 long years. 8 years ago, my legitimate sister successfully divorced her husband and clamored to marry into the Marquis' household as the main wife. Alas, just after the betrothal, a sudden illness claimed her life. I knew it was the Marquis, weary of her clinging, who poisoned her outright. After my sister's death, the Marquis claimed he was cursed to bring misfortune to his wives and vowed never to marry again. The entire capital praised the Marquis for his noble virtue. But I knew the truth, once the troublesome presence was gone, the Marquis and his stepmother grew ever bolder. Not only did they consort in secret, they openly indulged in debauchery with a harem of men and women in broad daylight. If anyone died, they'd toss the bones into the dry well in the back courtyard. Day after day, the white bones piled up layer upon layer in that dry well. Until one day, 10 years later, a group of soldiers stormed into the Marquis' mansion. At the command of the young man leading them, all the mansion's masters were bound hand and foot and forced to kneel before the ancestral hall. "Your Excellency," a soldier reported, 103 skeletal remains, both male and female, were unearthed from the dry well in the rear courtyard. The youngest appears to be no more than 11 or 12 years old, a female corpse. 103. 11 or 12. The young chief minister repeated these numbers silently twice. He turned and kicked the Marquis violently to the ground. Covered in grime, the Marquis still shouted with feigned bravado, "Liu Tongshu. My Yen family's ancestors were founding heroes. We possess an iron-sealed letter of pardon. Who do you think you are, daring to arrest people in my Marquis' residence? An iron-sealed pardon? Founding heroes?" Liu Tongshu laughed bitterly in rage, "His Majesty knows full well the deeds of the Marquis' residence. He commands me to ask, when committing these beastly acts, did you recall your ancestors' glorious deeds? Did you remember that as imperial kin, you should have sought the welfare of the common people? Even facing death, you show no remorse. I deem this Marquis's century-old legacy utterly worthless." With that, Liu Tongshu raised a torch and hurled it directly into the ancestral hall. Amidst the wails of the Marquis' household, the ancient, decaying hall was swiftly engulfed in flames. Within that sea of fire, I felt my consciousness slowly blur. When I awoke again, my eldest sister, who had passed away years ago, sat before me. Her face was pale and gaunt, bearing the look of one in the final stages of illness. Yet her eyes shone brightly. "Warner," she said, "your eldest sister is about to die. After I pass, would you be willing to marry the Marquis and become the new mistress of this estate?" In my previous life, I remembered this day until my dying breath. That day, upon hearing my elder sister's words, I agreed immediately. For a concubine's daughter like me, becoming the Marquis' second wife was already the best possible marriage. It felt like a pie falling from the sky, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. But I was young and ignorant then, unaware that every gift comes with a price. My thoughts raced, and in the next moment, my eyes welled up. "Eldest sister, don't speak such gloomy words." I clasped her hand. "Tomorrow I'll go to Qingshu Temple to burn incense and pray. Your health will surely improve." My elder sister avoided my gaze. Even if she was determined to push me into an abyss, she couldn't meet my kindness head-on. "I know my own condition. I'm merely biding my time." She paused, then slowly clasped my hand. "My death matters little, but the alliance between the Gu family and the Marquis' household must not be severed. Father and the old Marquis were lifelong confidants. Your eldest brother's career still needs the Marquis' backing. After marrying into the Marquis' household, you'll be the Marquis' wife. You can support our family more." My eldest sister listed many advantages of my marrying the Marquis. But what she never mentioned was, with a stepmother like me easily manipulated and bound by blood, the young master would be assured of a lifetime of security. The heir is the only son of my eldest sister and the Marquis. Though barely 12 or 13, he already displays the Marquise's hereditary nature. Any female servant or page in the house who catches his eye is swiftly lured into his bedchamber, where they spend their days in debauchery. My eldest sister has long known of this, yet her indulgence toward her children prevents her from imposing strict discipline. But if she were to die, and the Marquis brought in a shrewd new wife, the heir's position would surely be lost. These were all things I only came to understand after my death in my previous life. A parent's love for their child is a far-reaching plan. As for everyone else, they were merely stepping stones for maternal affection. I sneered coldly inside. My mind raced, calculating ways to refuse. Just then, the door burst open. My legitimate younger sister, dressed in crimson, rushed in breathlessly. Seeing my eldest sister and me clasped hand in hand, she gritted her teeth and shoved me aside. "Eldest sister." She seized my sister's wrist urgently. "I will marry. After you die, I will marry into the Marquis' household. Second sister is merely a concubine's daughter. How could she ever be fit to be the Marquis' legitimate wife?" This scene hadn't unfolded in my previous life. My legitimate sister had been sent away by the Marquis' maidservants and never appeared. Under my eldest sister's gentle persuasion, I had readily agreed. But the legitimate sister before me now was dusty and sweaty, her face flushed. Could it be? She too had been reborn? I sat to the side, carefully observing my legitimate sister's actions. She grabbed my eldest sister's wrist, shaking it as she pleaded for her to change her mind and let her marry into the Marquis' household instead. That's right. My legitimate sister died before marrying into the Marquis' household in her previous life. She never knew the Marquis' residence was a den of wolves. Watching my legitimate sister's actions, my elder sister's face turned pale and ashen. She could be ruthless toward me, her half-sister. But my legitimate sister was her own flesh and blood, born of the same mother. How could she bear to let her leap into the fire? "Do you think being the Marquise is so easy?" the eldest sister rebuked. "The Marquis' household enforces strict rules. You've always been arrogant and domineering. How could you possibly survive within those high walls? Second sister can do it, so why can't I?" The legitimate younger sister shrieked, cutting her elder sister off. Her eyes widened, the whites showing prominently, making her look especially unreasonable. "Have you lost your mind, eldest sister? I'm your own flesh and blood. You're just biased." The words struck like lightning, turning the eldest sister's face ashen. Her hand clenched the table corner, her blood surging violently. In the next instant, she coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Madam! Quick, fetch the imperial physician." The maids in the room rushed forward in panic, some helping the elder sister steady her breath, others fetching medicine. The legitimate younger sister, the instigator of this, stood to the side, utterly flustered. Only after returning home did I understand why the legitimate younger sister had been so anxious. Father had returned from our ancestral home, bringing a young man with him in the carriage. The youth appeared to be 16 or 17, with handsome features and a slender build. He wore the simplest blue robe, yet his gaze was deep and piercing. Even though he looked much younger, I recognized him instantly, Lu Tongshu, the chief minister who had set fire to the Marquis' ancestral hall. In my previous life, even within the Marquis' estate, I'd heard many tales about him. They said Lu Tongshu had passed the imperial examination at a young age as the top scholar, earning the emperor's favor and rising rapidly through the ranks. They said Lu Tongshu governed with integrity, achieved remarkable accomplishments, and won the people's hearts. They said Lu Tongshu defied the powerful, dared to speak truth to power, yet remained slippery and adept at navigating both sides. Lu Tongshu was the husband of my elder sister in her previous life. My father had two close friends in his youth. One was the late patriarch of the Marquis' household. The other was Lu Tongshu's father. In their youth, the three traveled the land together, forging a deep bond of friendship. Amid laughter and conversation, they even pledged that their children would be betrothed to one another. Yet when the younger generation came of age, only the Gu family had a daughter. Thus, 13 years ago, the eldest sister married into the Marquis' household. Meanwhile, the Liu couple had long since retired to the countryside, their whereabouts unknown. It wasn't until father returned to his hometown this time and made numerous inquiries that he discovered the Liu couple had long since passed away. Only their sole son, Liu Tongshu, remained, a young man who had already passed the provincial examinations. Remembering their old friendship and admiring Liu Tongshu's talent, father brought him back to the capital. His intentions were twofold: to prepare Liu Tongshu for the imperial examinations and to fulfill the marriage agreement of old. "But, I won't marry," the legitimate younger sister wailed and threw a tantrum. "Eldest sister is about to die. I could have taken her place to marry into the marquise household and become the marquise wife. I refuse to marry some penniless scholar." "Nonsense." Father's beard bristled and his eyes blazed. "Your eldest sister wanted your second sister to marry in her stead. What business is it of yours?" Hearing this, the legitimate daughter threw an even bigger tantrum. "Why should second sister get to marry into the marquise household while I'm stuck with some penniless scholar? I'm the legitimate daughter of the Gu family. I don't care. I'm the one who's marrying into the marquise household." Father grew desperate, raising his hand to strike her, only to be restrained by his legitimate wife. My legitimate sister's tantrum and rolling about on the floor showed no regard for Liu Tongshu standing nearby. The youth stood in the shadows of the corner, his eyes lowered. In my previous life, I had little interaction with him. After the engagement to the marquise household was arranged, I secluded myself in the courtyard, preparing quietly for the marriage. I'd only heard rumors that my sister was deeply unhappy with her match, crying and throwing tantrums day after day. In the end, unable to sway father, she married into the marquise household, sobbing all the way. Watching Liu Tongshu's frail figure, I suddenly recalled him standing before the marquise ancestral hall, flames roaring behind him. That fire consumed the marquise household, its blazing prosperity and lavish splendor. It also forged my own phoenix-like rebirth. Liu Tongshu was destined to become the chief minister, and the very man who had destroyed the marquisate. If I sought vengeance, aligning myself with him would be the simplest path. "Never mind," I murmured softly. "I will marry him." My voice was quiet, yet it instantly drew the gaze of everyone present. "What?" My elder sister gasped, disbelief etched across her face. "I said, I will marry him." I met my elder sister's gaze, along with father's, mother's, and Liu Tongshu's. The youth's dark eyes brimmed with astonishment. "After eldest sister passes away, third sister will marry into the marquise household and become its second wife," I stated. "I will marry brother Liu to fulfill the betrothal between the Liu and Gu families." Hearing my words, my elder sister seemed taken aback. In her mind, no one would ever turn down the immense wealth and prestige of the marquise household. Yet, she quickly lifted her chin in haughty defiance. After all, she was stubborn and domineering, while I had always yielded to her in every way. To her, this marriage to the marquise household was like a bracelet or a pair of earrings. If she wanted it, I had to give it to her. Father and mother, however, hesitated. After all, it was eldest sister who had specifically requested my marriage into the Ho family. Yet over the following days, younger sister's relentless nagging gradually softened their stance. For father, the crucial point was honoring the betrothal agreement made years ago. Which daughter married whom was of little consequence. Eldest sister, meanwhile, had not informed mother of the Ho family's true circumstances. For my stepmother, she'd always believed family wealth should stay within the family, and she'd harbored some resentment toward my eldest sister for choosing me. With their consent secured, the final obstacle was my eldest sister. But within days, news arrived from the Marquis' residence that my eldest sister had fallen gravely ill. In my previous life, after the engagement was sealed, the eldest sister clung to life for a full month before passing away. During that month, she poured her heart and soul into paving the way for the heir and clearing obstacles. This included slipping me a bowl of sterilizing medicine. But in this life, the eldest sister had coughed up blood after being provoked by her legitimate younger sister and was now visibly near death. All those scheming plans remained unimplemented. When we arrived at the Marquis' residence, the eldest sister lay pale and ashen on the bed. The heir knelt beside her, weeping bitterly. The Marquis sat at the bedside, wiping tears from his eyes, yet his gaze held no trace of genuine sorrow. Fearing my hatred might be seen, I quickly lowered my head. Marquis, my elder sister raised her trembling hand. We were betrothed in youth, married for many years. You know all the hardship and endurance I've endured these years. Before I die, I ask only one thing of you: take my second sister as your second wife. She shares blood with Linner and will surely protect him. The Marquis swiftly grasped her hand. Rest assured, I shall grant your every wish. Only then did the eldest sister breathe a sigh of relief. With her final wish fulfilled, her complexion grew slightly rosier, like a last glow before the light fades. Everyone, please leave, she said. I wish to speak privately with my second sister. Once all had exited the room, the eldest sister beckoned me over. Second sister, I know you have a kind heart. The crown prince is your own flesh and blood nephew. You must protect him well, never let anyone bully him. Her voice was faint, yet her tone was earnest and resolute. This earnest, resolute maternal love, in my past life, it had just as earnestly and resolutely pushed me into an abyss. I looked at her, a strange smile curling my lips. Bully him? Bully who? Eldest sister, you wouldn't be referring to that son of yours, the one who stuffed a maid and a stray cat into a sack at age 10, then beat them with a wooden stick until the cat tore the maid to pieces alive? The world fell suddenly silent. Big sister jerked her head up, eyes wide with disbelief. You. How do you know? She tried to sit up, but her strength failed her. All she could manage was gasping for breath. I smiled. I know even more, I murmured softly. I know the Marquis and his stepmother committed adultery, poisoning the old Marquis to death. I know the entire Marquis household are perverts, raping men and women alike, with the dry well in the backyard piled high with white bones. I also know you wanted me to marry into this house, then drugged me with sterilization potions, forcing me to cling to the young master for the rest of my life. Big sister, you really played your cards well. Big sister lay on the bed, staring at me. The disbelief in her eyes had turned to terror. Guess how I found out all this? I leaned down, whispering softly into her ear. In my past life, I married into the Marquis' household under your schemes. In the end, I died with eyes wide open. You think marrying me over here will bring the young master a good end? Let me tell you, 10 years after my death, the Marquis' title was stripped, his deeds annulled. His entire family was executed. Hearing this, my elder sister shook her head in terror. No, you can't. Save him. Save Linner. Save, her voice cut off abruptly. She lay on the bed, eyes wide open, her body utterly lifeless. Pale, blue-gray eyeballs bulged and burst. She died with her eyes open. Just like me in my past life. My elder sister's funeral was grand and solemn. All the imperial relatives, nobles, and dignitaries of the capital were invited. At the funeral, the Marquis and his stepmother wept uncontrollably, nearly fainting. Everyone inwardly marveled at their profound love for the eldest sister. In a corner of the funeral hall, father and the legitimate mother pulled the Marquis aside, informing him that the third sister was to be married into the Marquis' household. The Marquis' face darkened, but the late lady's final wish was for me to marry second sister. His words trailed off as his legitimate sister approached, casting him a bashful glance. Her mourning robes clung tightly, accentuating her slender waist. Her eyes crinkled playfully at the corners, radiating charm. Kneeling at a distance, I sat stiff and numb. The Marquis immediately agreed. In my past life, he despised wooden-headed types like me most of all, which is why he never set foot in my chamber on our wedding night. A beauty like my elder sister, full of allure, was precisely his type. As for my eldest sister's dying wish, let it be carried away by the wind. 3 months after my sister's death, the Marquis came to propose. With gongs and drums, he married my elder sister. On her wedding day, my elder sister looked at me with utter disdain and arrogance. In her heart, this lifetime, she had finally reclaimed everything that rightfully belonged to her. And for that mindset of hers, I was genuinely grateful. My marriage to Lu Tongshu was also set in motion. Only, by comparison, it would be far more modest. The entire Gu household knew my elder sister had intended to marry me off to the Marquis' estate. I paid no heed to the servants' gossip. But someone did. At noon, Lu Tongshu came to see me. Second Miss Gu, he said, his gaze deep and intense, are you truly willing to forego the Marquis' estate and marry a penniless scholar like me? 15 years later, he would become the decisive chief minister who set fire to the Marquis' ancestral hall. But now, he was still a youth, prone to self-doubt and uncertainty. All the world's dealings revolved around power and status. Yet I had turned away from power and status within my grasp, from unimaginable wealth, choosing him instead. This baffled Lu Tongshu completely. Rest assured, brother Lu, I smiled. The Marquis was like honey to third sister, but to me, it was arsenic. My words were so decisive they left Lu Tongshu speechless. After a long moment, he lowered his gaze and chuckled softly. Gu Wan, Lu Tongshu met my eyes and vowed, this lifetime, I shall never betray you. 2 years after Lu Tongshu and I were married, the imperial examinations arrived. Lu Tongshu triumphed in the palace examination, securing the top rank as Zhuangyuan. In the Golden Hall, the emperor, struck by his youthful handsomeness and recalling several princesses of comparable age, entertained thoughts of arranging a marriage for him. Lu Tongshu refused outright, Your Majesty, this servant has already taken a wife. My wife is the daughter of Minister Gu of the Ministry of Rights. She is gentle and virtuous, and we share a deep and equal partnership. I have long sworn that I will never betray her in this lifetime. The emperor abandoned his matchmaking plans, yet he admired Lu Tongshu's devotion and rewarded him generously with gold, silver, and treasures. News spread throughout the capital, and all the young ladies in their chambers marveled at the top scholar's devotion. My elder sister also heard these rumors. At the Duke's mansion banquet, upon seeing me, she spoke with a sharp tone, Second sister, tending to the household affairs for Minister Lu these past 2 years has left you looking rather haggard. Fortunately, now that Minister Lu has risen to prominence, he will surely take several concubines to ease second sister's burden. Before I could respond, the third princess, seated nearby, protested. Father the emperor himself praised Lu Tongshu for his deep loyalty and righteousness, calling him a model husband. Yet from your lips, he sounds like a heartless, faithless scoundrel. If the Marquis' wife has the leisure to meddle in others' affairs, she'd do better to mind her own. My elder sister's expression darkened. She clenched her jaw but said nothing more. Observing her look, I sensed she knew something more. And rightly so. Unlike my previous life, where I was invisible in the Marquis' household, this time, my elder sister and the Marquis had shared the sweetness of newlywed days. As his bedmate, she couldn't be entirely unaware of the Marquis' actions. But this was all she had sought out herself. No matter how bitter or exhausting it became, she had to endure it. After the banquet, several ladies and I walked hand in hand out of the Duke's residence, only to find Lu Tongshu already waiting beneath the eaves. Amidst the ladies' teasing remarks, my face flushed as Lu Tongshu pulled me into the carriage. We're returning home early today, so I came to fetch you. Lu Tongshu handed me a food box. Opening it, I found my favorite chestnut cakes inside. Watching me pick one up and pop it into my mouth, Lu Tongshu smiled. But soon, a shadow of worry crossed his face. Wan, I must leave the capital, Lu Tongshu murmured. The emperor has sent me to inspect the salt trade in Lianghuai. This journey holds many dangers. I will go with you. I clasped his hand. Wherever you are, I will be there. Lu Tongshu was appointed as the salt inspector, traveling alongside the second prince to oversee the salt trade in Lianghuai. The second prince, several months younger than Lu Tongshu, addressed me affectionately as sister-in-law throughout the journey. Upon reaching their destination, the two swiftly commenced their investigation into salt taxes. I remained at the Lu residence, spending my days receiving visits from local officials and their families. Yet even in my seclusion, I heard whispers of Lu Tongshu's actions. Upon arriving in the two huais, the second prince and Lu Tongshu targeted the local elite and influential families directly, achieving immediate success. Their thunderous crackdown saw numerous officials fall from grace and land in prison. Yet precisely because of this, the two became the focus of widespread hostility. Though Lu Tongshu constantly reassured me not to fear, I still couldn't help but worry. In my previous life, though I resided within the Marquis' mansion, I had heard tales of the brutal struggle for the throne. The current court situation is such that the first prince, being the crown prince and the son of the empress, has the backing of meritorious nobles. Yet his extravagant and reckless behavior makes him unpopular among the upright officials. The second prince, gifted with brilliance and a heart for the people, has developed his own power base despite his mother's humble origins. In my previous life, it was ultimately he who ascended the throne. Seeing Lu Tongshu's close relationship with the second prince, it seemed he had aligned himself with the second prince early on. These thoughts brought me some measure of comfort. Until one night, Lu Tongshu did not return home. Early the next morning, the Lu residence was completely surrounded by imperial guards. The officers declared that Lu Tongshu had colluded with foreign tribes, committed treason, and had already fled. Lu Tongshu, a traitor? I refused to believe it. But the magistrate's office produced letters proving Lu Tongshu's secret correspondence with foreign powers, backed by testimony from accompanying officials. The evidence was irrefutable. The Lu residence remained under siege for 3 days, leaving me so anxious my mouth was filled with sores. The second prince sent word discreetly, urging me to stay calm. He said he had dispatched men to track Lu Tongshu's whereabouts and would inform me immediately if there was any news. Reading this, my heart eased slightly. But with the lessons of my past life, I could no longer be that submissive Guwan. For 5 years of marriage, Lu Tongshu had protected me for 5 years. Though I married him initially for both advantage and support, now, I too wished to protect him. I carefully recalled the details of Lu Tongshu from my past life, yet found only scattered fragments in my mind. In my memory, the legitimate sister never left the capital. She once complained to me about her husband being transferred to a remote post. She despised that place, finding it lacking the splendor of the capital, and refused to accompany him. Lu Tongshu had always been an incorruptible official. Even as salt commissioner, he could never satisfy the legitimate sister's craving for material wealth. During her most turbulent period, she frequently visited the marquise' residence. My sister had long sought a divorce from Lu Tongshu. The marquis, a noble of military merit, belonged to the crown prince's faction. These intricate relationships crisscrossed in my mind, gradually weaving into a cohesive whole. I lay awake all night. Early the next morning, clad in a deep crimson gown, I opened the gates of the Lu residence. The guards stationed at the gate raised their spears the moment they saw me, by order of the prefect. No one, not a single soul, is permitted to enter or leave the Lu residence. The silver blades flashed with icy glints, sending shivers down my spine. Yet my expression betrayed no fear. According to our dynasty's laws, anyone may plead their case in court after enduring 10 strokes of the cane. I am the wife of Lu Tongshu. I willingly accept 10 strokes to plead my husband's innocence. 1 stroke, 2 strokes. I bit down on my sleeve, forcing myself to remain silent. The cane used for punishment was thick and heavy. After 10 strokes, pain turned my face ashen, sweat pouring down my forehead like rain. The punishment was administered in full view of the public. Soon, the courtyard below the dais filled with onlookers. Who stands below the dais? The prefect struck his gavel and questioned from his seat. He was the one who ordered the siege of Lu Manor and the arrest warrant for Lu Tongshu. He was the crown prince's man. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I rose. This humble woman is the wife of Lu Tongshu. What brings you here? I have come to clear my husband's name. I lifted my head. My husband never betrayed the country. Absurd. The magistrate rebuked. Lu Tongshu colluded with foreign enemies, the evidence is irrefutable. Then may I ask, Your Honor, what did my husband seek by colluding with foreign enemies? Money, naturally. Where is this wealth? I countered. No one answered. Having witnessed the Ho family's downfall in my previous life, I governed my household with iron discipline. When the officials raided the Lu residence, they found not a single coin. Lu Tongshu had long praised my management methods, and I applied the same strict protocols to the censorate. Though Lu Tongshu vanished, no one dared slander the second prince for treason. Fortunately, the second prince had taken timely precautions, and the censorate found nothing either. Why exactly did Lu Tongshu betray his country? That remains an unsolved mystery to this day. Even if no valuables were found this time, what explanation do you have for these letters between Lu Tongshu and foreign tribes? The prefect produced a letter and handed it to me. I examined it and confirmed it was indeed Lu Tongshu's handwriting. But so what? I had a clerk bring me paper and brush, then proceeded to copy the entire letter. The magistrate's clerk examined both letters closely for a long time. Indeed, the handwriting is indistinguishable. Your Honor, I replied, lifting my head to address the magistrate, handwriting can be forged. Even a common woman like myself, with only a smattering of education, can perfectly mimic her husband's writing. Our great nation is teeming with talent. How can a single letter of unknown origin be used to slander a salt commissioner known for his integrity, accusing him of treason? This is utterly preposterous. As I spoke, murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd below the dais. Indeed, Lu Tongshu had served in Fengtian for 2 years, punishing countless corrupt officials and winning the people's deep affection. Deep down, the common folk refused to believe Lu Tongshu would betray his country. The clamor grew so loud the magistrate was forced to bang his gavel once more. Bring forth the witness. A man clad in prison garb was escorted into the courtroom. This traitorous subject served as Lu Tongshu's deputy, he declared. Lu Tongshu colluded with Japanese pirates, engaging in smuggling for personal gain. I witnessed this with my own eyes. And was also coerced into participating in some of these activities. Since you witnessed it firsthand, may I ask when and where exactly you witnessed it? I countered. The man named the date and location, and upon hearing it, I laughed. During those days, Lu Tongshu was indeed absent from the city, but he was certainly not at the location the man claimed. After our marriage, whenever Lu Tongshu did not return home, he would write me a letter. 1 letter daily, without fail. Each envelope bore the postman's mark, indicating precisely when and where it was dispatched. I had meticulously preserved every single one of these letters, without exception. I presented these letters to everyone present. Those seated in the courtroom remained composed, but among the common folk below the dais, voices immediately rose in outcry, Lord Lu is innocent. Thus, all witness testimony and physical evidence were overturned, and the motive itself became questionable. At that moment, I saw the second prince enter the prefectural office accompanied by a middle-aged man. The prefect, upon seeing him, hastily vacated his seat. The middle-aged man waved his hand, motioning for the prefect to sit back down. Regarding the case of Lu Tanshu's alleged treason, he stated, this official finds the evidence insufficient and further investigation is warranted. With just those words, cold sweat broke out on the magistrate's brow. The soldiers surrounding Lord Lu's residence withdrew. Yet I dared not relax, keeping my doors tightly shut while nursing my injuries. Only after returning home from the magistrate's office that day did I discover my legs were swollen and bruised, completely numb. The physician said that had I not been rescued in time, my legs would have been ruined. One afternoon, I awoke from a nap to find a slender figure sitting by my bed, watching me intently. It was Lu Tongshu. After so many days apart, he had grown darker and thinner. Lu Tongshu gently touched my legs. It hurts, doesn't it? He asked softly. I shook my head. No. Compared to the agony of swords piercing my heart in my past life, this was nothing. Lu Tongshu watched me for a long time, then suddenly leaned down and held me tightly. His embrace was so strong it felt like he wanted to press me into his very flesh. Wan, he said, it was the Marquis' household who sent men to kill me. Lu Tongshu told me many things. Back then, the Marquis and his stepmother had committed adultery, leading to the death of the old Marquis. They believed their actions were concealed, yet Uncle Lu discovered their secret. Uncle Lu secretly gathered evidence, only to be murdered by the two of them. Not content with that, they sent assassins to the countryside to murder his pregnant mother. Lu Tongshu, young and playful, stayed out all night. Unbeknownst to him, this absence spared his life. After that day, Lu Tongshu threw himself into his studies. Upon reaching the capital, he began secretly tracking down the murderers of his parents. Following the trail, he uncovered the hidden secrets of the Marquis' household. Whether in this life or the last, his feud with the Marquis' house was one of mutual annihilation. His hatred for the Marquis' household was as deep as mine. Upon his return, Lu Tongshu immediately cleared himself of treason charges. In the months that followed, he became a fearsome presence in the Huai region's official circles, crushing any opposition in his path. Later, the second prince and Lu Tongshu were honored by the emperor for their successful investigation into salt affairs after reporting back to the capital. Lu Tongshu's promotion elevated my status as well. At the first banquet after our return, the third princess approached me. Word has spread throughout the capital. They say the wife of Minister Lu defended her husband's innocence at the prefectural office, leaving the governor speechless. Second brother also told me that if not for your actions directly clearing Lu Tongshu's name, their subsequent efforts wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Madame Gu, you are truly a heroine. The third princess showered me with praise. A heroine? I never imagined such a phrase would ever be used to describe me. In my past life, I was like withered weeds, sinking and perishing in the mud of the Marquis estate. But in this life, I am like pine and cypress under the rising sun, rooted in fertile soil, growing freely. A woman's growth requires nourishing soil. Lu Tongshu is to me the most fertile soil imaginable. Second sister truly radiates confidence now. A mocking voice cut through the air. I turned my head and saw my long-lost legitimate younger sister. She was still adorned in gold and silver, dressed in luxurious finery. Yet for some reason, every inch of exposed skin was coated in lead white, making her look deathly pale. Looking closer, beneath the lead white, her skin was covered in pimples. You. My voice faltered. Perhaps you should consult a renowned physician. Your skin appears afflicted by some grave illness. Biological sister. After a long silence, I finally heard her voice again. Second sister, don't get too cocky, she said through gritted teeth. Everything you've gained now, you stole from me. I took it from her? Hearing my sister speak thus, I found it rather amusing. Had I not been reborn, I might even have felt a shred of pity for her. But having lived through my previous life, I could only think she had brought this upon herself. After the banquet, I discreetly inquired and discovered rumors about the Marquis' household were everywhere. These past years, my sister had stirred up a storm throughout the entire city. Rumors of the Marquis' affair with his stepmother, the heir's debauchery and tyranny, the Marquis' household treating lives as grass. One scandal after another, all made public knowledge by my elder sister. Her nature had always been arrogant and reckless, impulsive and heedless of consequences, never considering how these actions would affect her. Listening to these rumors, I realized that in this life, the downfall of the Marquis' household might come much sooner than I had imagined. In fact, it might not even require Lu Tongshu and I to lift a finger. This lifetime, Lu Tongshu ascended to the cabinet several years earlier than in the previous one. Meanwhile, I had become pregnant. Lu Tongshu was overjoyed, spending his days obsessively brainstorming names for the child, filling countless sheets of paper until they were worn out. I was happy too. Caressing my gently rounded belly, I quietly savored the joy of becoming a mother for the first time. This was my first child, both in this life and the last. No matter what, I would protect her. The political landscape within the court was unpredictable. In this life, with Lu Tongshu's rise coming earlier, the struggle for the throne also arrived sooner. Late one night, I awoke with a start to find Lu Tongshu dressing. What's happened? I asked urgently. Lu Tongshu's expression was grim. There's been an incident at the Eastern Palace. The second prince sent word, I must go immediately. Something major will likely unfold in the capital tonight. Make sure to station guards at the doors and instruct the servants not to move about freely. Lu Tongshu clasped my hand, giving me numerous instructions, yet his worry remained unchecked. Go with peace of mind, I reassured him with a smile. You needn't worry about me. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I was no longer the fragile, helpless Gu-one of my past existence. Yet, inexplicably, some still saw me that way. Less than an hour after Lu Tongshu left, flames lit up the capital sky, and soldiers bellowed battle cries throughout the city. Amidst the chaos, a band of bandits charged toward the Lu residence, intent on breaking in and killing. But I had already set a trap before the mansion. The 20-odd bandits found nothing, only to be captured by the Lu household servants. Who sent you here? Seated in the main hall, I interrogated them from above. The bandits remained silent. I signaled the servants to apply gentle torture. Soon, the leader confessed, it was the Marquis' wife. Tonight, she was the Marquis' wife, tomorrow, she would be a prisoner. The crown prince had raised an army in rebellion, and the marquise household was implicated. If the rebellion succeeded, they would be credited as loyal followers. If it failed, they would be branded as traitors and rebels. The crown prince's rebellion failed. The emperor flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation. Thus, hundreds within the marquise household faced execution or exile. The old case of the marquis and his stepmother plotting against the late marquis was reopened. The white bones unearthed from the dry well in the rear courtyard led to all involved being sentenced to lynching. My legitimate sister, who knew of the plot yet failed to report it and instigated the crime, was also sentenced to execution. Before her death, I came to the dungeon to see her off. In the dark, damp dungeon, my legitimate sister had already descended into madness. I am Lady Lu. I am the true Lady Lu. Gu Wan. You stole everything from me. You should be the one in this marquise mansion suffering all this. You should be the one to die. I stood outside the door, silently watching my elder sister's deranged state. Even if I stood before her, she would no longer recognize me. The stark contrast between this life and the last had shattered her mind. She couldn't comprehend how she'd fallen to this end. Unwilling to face her own mistakes, she still blamed everything on me. I sighed and turned to leave. Execution was set for tomorrow. What more could I say to a dying madwoman? When the marquise household fell from grace, both daughters of the legitimate mother were the marquise' principal wives. Father was terrified beyond measure. He hastily wrote a letter of divorce and sent the legitimate mother to the country estate that very night. Faced with the threat to his life and fortune, he cared not a whit for the family's honor, reputation, or prestige. And so, the marquise' household collapsed. Weeds now overgrew my eldest sister's grave. I came to her grave, told her of the marquise's downfall and the heir's fate, then turned and left without a backward glance. Meanwhile, Lu Tongshu, having quelled the rebellion, found himself poised for advancement. With the current chief minister Xie retiring to a life of honor, Lu's rise seemed imminent. Many families harbored ulterior motives, attempting to present concubines to Lu Tongshu. He rebuffed them outright: none match my wife's beauty, none rival her talent, none possess her courage. Sir, I suggest you refrain from such jests. Do you truly believe my discernment is so poor? Which daughter wasn't raised in pampered luxury? Who would willingly endure such comparisons? Over time, no one dared offer themselves up for such humiliation. Late one night, I jolted awake from a dream to find Lu Tongshu holding me, his eyes wet. I dreamt you never married me, but went instead to the marquise' household. In that dream, you died young there, and I fought desperately to avenge you. His voice choked with sorrow. Tears welled in my eyes, yet my lips curved upward without my noticing. You're acting like a child, scared by a mere dream. I patted his head. Stop thinking about it. Go back to sleep. Indeed, those unforgettable memories had long since faded into oblivion. Like a dream. The story ends here. Thank you all for your company. See you in the next chapter.